Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Monday. Today's Monday, July the 28th. This is Let's Talk Tropics, and it's a pretty quiet start to the week this time around, but we're going to see possibly some extra action starting to come up as we go into August, as we normally would expect. Got some stats for you a little bit later on in this broadcast, just to kind of remind you that even though we've only had 3 named storms so far, that the majority of our hurricane season still lies ahead. So we'll talk a little bit about that coming up in just a little bit, but it is a hot one. 90 degrees, the current temperature, with our heat index already at 102, and that dew point at 76, relative humidity 64%, winds out of the northeast at around 5, and the pressure right now is running at about 30.21. By the way, here in Lafayette, we still have not hit 95 degrees for a daytime high, so we're a little bit behind schedule on that. The average first 95 degree day is about June the 20th. And the last time we had a year where we didn't hit 95 degrees was all the way back in 2001, believe it or not, where our high for the entire year was just 93 degrees. And one of the earliest dates on my list here in the last 20 years, May 16th, and one of the latest dates back in 2014, we waited until August the 23rd. So let's keep that trend going after all the records that we've set over the last couple of years, with 110 back in 2023 and then dropping to 4 earlier this year. It'd be nice to have something that's a little bit closer to average for our summer. Right now, we don't have any worries when it comes to our radar. We're in pretty good shape there. We don't have anything to worry about at this point. There's a lot of sunshine on our area roadways, so as long as traveling is looking okay this afternoon. And as far as our beaches, we're in good shape there too. Fairly light winds out of the west-southwest today at about 5 to 10 knots. Seas running about 1 to 2 feet in our near shore waters. And as we look at some of our beach cams, gorgeous day over at Panama City Beach. Orange Beach looking good. A lot of folks enjoying a little bit cooler water there compared to what the air temperature would be. Dauphin Island, a nice quiet day there with a nice breeze coming out of the south. And as far as Cocodrie, this is looking off toward the east and a lot of sunshine there. And then farther off to our west, we're looking at mostly sunny skies out over the Bayou Vista area right there near Galveston. So really pretty day here along the northern Gulf Coast, and really much of the Gulf really not experiencing a whole lot. Kind of the upper end of a tropical wave kind of working its way off toward the west, but really only producing a couple of isolated showers there off the Florida coast. And then you get a little more action as you get farther down along the Yucatan Peninsula, and you follow that tropical wave even farther to the south, and you've got some decent shower and thunderstorm activity there over Nicaragua and parts of Honduras and down toward Costa Rica. The rest of the Caribbean, really not a whole lot going on there either. We've got a bit of a tropical wave right there. That's the one that's kind of affecting the southern part of the Gulf. There's another tropical wave right there with a bit of a low pressure area there at the top. Looks kind of interesting, but at this time, it doesn't look like we're going to see any development there north of the Virgin Islands. And then for the remainder of the tropical Atlantic, again, we've got a number of tropical waves that are out there, but for the most part, we're really not seeing a whole lot of development. But some of the tropical waves that are starting to come off the African coast here seem to be a little bit more robust. And as we go into the month of August, these tropical waves are going to be able to hold themselves together a little bit better as they move off toward the west. Some of our computer models going out beyond 10 days are starting to get things warming up there over parts of the Atlantic Basin, possibly with 1 or 2 tropical systems coming along. So again, that's not going to be this week. It's probably going to be at least a week down the road. So at this point in time, the National Hurricane Center not expecting any tropical activity here over the next week. But when you look at some of our Euro tropical formation forecasts, this basically gives us the chances that there would be any kind of tropical system moving within a radius of these areas here. And you see that the numbers go up a little bit there over the middle part of the Atlantic. That's between today and next Monday. And there are some model indications that maybe one of these tropical waves might be able to strengthen a little bit. So who knows? We might have a tropical depression out there sometime next week. Before we do the rest of the analysis, though, real quick peek at the Pacific. which has been really quiet over the last couple of weeks, but just over the last few days, things really ramping up over the central part of the Atlantic where we have a hurricane there southeast of Hawaii. We've got another tropical depression in its wake, another area that has a medium chance for development, and then south of Mexico, we might have some extra development from that other tropical wave that moved westward into the Pacific Ocean over the weekend, and that might have a chance for some development here over the next several days. So getting back to the analysis, again, those water temperatures are getting into the extreme levels there over parts of the Gulf. We are very fortunate that there aren't any tropical waves that are moving across there, or any tropical activity for that matter, because if we were to see something move into this region, those water temperatures are ripe for anything to not just develop, but probably strengthen. And then when you've got that high heat potential over the western part of the Caribbean and much of the southern Gulf, if anything were to track over those particular areas, let's say it was just maybe a little tropical depression or something, it would have a good chance of some strengthening in that area. And if you have a tropical storm or even a low-end hurricane that would move across that particular area, you could see some rapid intensification and go from a Cat 1 to a Cat 4 lickety-split. So something to watch out for there over the next several weeks, because as we go into August and September, of course, we get a lot more activity, and there will be a lot more chances for tropical systems to cross over these areas of extremely warm water. Another thing that tends to happen during the month of August, we start to see the Saharan dust kind of slowing down, so that also will aid in extra development of tropical systems as we go into the next couple of months. And the wind shear also tends to kind of shy away a little bit more as we get into August and September, and then it starts to pick up again as we get into October and November, and that's why we start to see the hurricane season kind of wrapping up a little bit. But you can see right now there's some wind shear mainly over the Caribbean, but for the rest of the tropical Atlantic, a lot of this is looking at light to moderate wind shear at best. There's really not a whole lot of high areas of wind shear except for off the Florida coast, and they're over the middle part of the Caribbean. So again, conditions are getting a little bit more ripe for tropical development here in the coming weeks. So let's look at the GFS. We'll just take you out 10 days. I want you to focus in on the Atlantic Ocean east of the Windward Islands, and you got a couple of waves that are going to move their way across. For a brief moment there on the GFS, coming up here a little bit later on this week, there's a little bit of a low, and then there toward the end, we've got another area of low pressure that might want to roll off the African coast, but this really is not showing a whole lot of action. Maybe a low off of a front off the east coast as we get into the latter part of this month and going into the early part of August, but for the most part, the GFS is kind of inconclusive on anything organized. Now, the Euro going out 10 days, showing a bit of a low out there in the middle part of the Atlantic, maybe a couple of low pressure areas, very close to where the Euro is showing the possibility of some development, and then it kind of continues to drift its way off toward the west, and some of that energy starts to work its way close to the Bahamas, but then it looks like it's going to get swept up by a frontal boundary. So I'll let it roll again. So there's your low right there, and then it kind of continues to move off toward the west, but you see it really kind of loses its low pressure, but you see that moisture, and the moisture continues to move here north of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and then it gets over into this particular area by the time we get into about a week and a half from today, and then it looks like a front would kind of sweep it and push it back out into the Atlantic Ocean. Canadian model also showing more of a low, kind of some development, maybe one or two waves across the Atlantic, and then moving north of the Bahamas or north of Puerto Rico and in toward the Bahamas. And again, about that time, there's going to be another trough digging across the lower 48. So hopefully that would be something that would sweep anything that would develop in that area back out to sea. And we'll finish out with the Icon model, which keeps low pressure, at least one or two of those tropical waves kind of holding together, maybe even combining there. But this only goes out 7 days, so it's keeping that moisture and maybe a little bit of a low, moving its way toward the Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, and then hopefully we get pulled up by a trough moving across the lower 48. So at this point in the next 10 days, it doesn't look like anything would affect us locally, but there could be some systems trying to work their way out across the Atlantic and maybe into portions of the Caribbean. So We're going to go out beyond 10 days, and the only reason I'm going to use the euro here is because it was showing even more action. You see that low there? This is getting into about August 10th, so we're going way out, but you can see there's that low that might be impacting the Windward Islands or maybe getting into the Caribbean. So at least the euro going out that far is suggesting some tropical development. And as far as the GFS, looks like more of a wave kind of working its way off that way, but nothing conclusive, at least at that point. So it's just for fun, we were looking out beyond that 10-day window to see if we had anything else that was trying to make a blip there on the computer models. But I did show you this on Friday, and I'm going to continue to show it here because I'm already saying I have to remind folks year after year after year when we get to the end of July and go into August, and we've only got 3 or 4 named storms under our belt. There's a few of them that a few folks that are already saying, oh, the forecast's a bust. The forecast's a bust. It's only June 28th. You can't write off hurricane season on June 28th. It's like writing off summer and saying that we're going to go to fall starting next week. As we all know, that's not going to happen here in South Louisiana. So the bulk of the hurricane and tropical storm activity still lays ahead. And as you can see during the month of August, you get a lot more areas where we could see some development. So the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean are now starting to open for business. So there's a better chance you're going to be seeing development. Doesn't mean anything's going to come to Louisiana. It just means we're going to see more activity, which happens every single year. Now, NOAA's still predicting 13 to 19 named storms. We've got 3 under our belt. So that's 10 to 16 more that they're expecting. Colorado State will update its forecast Wednesday of next week. Still going with 16. We've got 3 under our belt, so that's 13-ish that they're still expecting between now and the rest of the hurricane season. And if you still don't believe me, here's the last 5 years, and these are all of the storms that have formed after August the 1st. And based on just a quick eyeball on this is somewhere between 75 and 85% of all named storms in the last 5 years happened after August the 1st. Now, last year, we only had 3 under our belt when we went into August, and we ended up with 15 more named storms, 10 of those being hurricanes. 2023 was very similar. I think we had 4 under our belt. 2022, I want to say we had 3. The only real anomaly here is 2020, where we were already on our 10th storm by the time we reached August 1st, and then we had 21 more form after. So we still ended up with 2/3 to 3/4 of all tropical systems ended up forming after August 1st, even though we had 10 named storms under our belt already by this point in time in 2020. So don't let your guard down. Make sure you're going ahead with your plans, even though there's nothing happening locally right now. These are all the things that are readily available and things that you can do right now when the weather is quiet. Take care of these within the next week or so, because Friday is August the 1st. And again, basically about 75, maybe more, 75 or more percent of all tropical activity will happen there after the August 1st date. And usually it's between August 1st and September the 30th. So the next 8 weeks are going to be very, very busy. Hopefully all this will stay away from Acadiana, but you got to be prepared for just about anything that could come in our direction. So that's what I got for you on this Monday. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, turn on the notifications too, and don't forget you can hear my forecast daily on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And please follow my social media pages both on Facebook and X. And thanks to all my new subscribers here on Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great day.